It's a good strategy for actually tracking progress and improvement. Video is really helpful because I've always found that if I watch a video of myself from 2 months ago, I'm like, wow, I was bad back then. And it shows, by contrast to what I currently look at and see, how much differently I see the game now and how much more I expect of myself now. So that's a really good way to look at it. If you're trying to, keep track of like the ideas and the goals you had, just write down the goals that you're trying to work towards and maybe check up on them every month or so and revise edits. Anytime you have a VOD reviewer, like, here's a new thing that I want to be working on that I didn't think about before, just add that to the list and maybe take something off if you feel like, okay, I've got that down well enough for now and I don't want to focus on that anymore. What is the best thing about competitive Splatoon 3? I like that it is team focused. I like that the community is as non-toxic as it is and is as inclusive as it is. I love that they're not still out there using gay as an insult, that they're not, normalizing rage behavior. I think that it's a very cool video game that's very fun. There's a lot of skill expression. It's very fast-paced. There's not a lot of downtime, even in between matches. And during matches, you're just constantly a part of the action. It's not like a game of Valorant where you get shot once and then you just have to wait for the entire game to play out, being like, wow, I still cannot accomplish anything right now. And that match is going to take an hour of just that happening over and over again. Much easier to get into, much more family-friendly, much more friendly in terms of community. There's a lot of good things about it. How long do you think you'll play Splatoon? That is an interesting question. I played Melee for, let's see. I really started getting serious and competitive about Splatoon at the end of 2018. So that would put it at a good 10 years of very consistent tournament play before I moved on to another game. And that really happened by accident. It's not like I was looking for another game to play. It's not like I was trying to leave Melee or anything. Just something else caught my attention at the time. So I don't know. As long as I want to is an answer to that question that's true. But in terms of, it is kind of my job now. But I've also got plans. If Nintendo were to come and shut me down, I would have other ideas for what to do on YouTube. Like, there are definitely other ideas that are bubbling under the surface and just desperate to come out that eventually I will make videos about. But for now, I'm sticking to Woomy game. What do you hope to see in Splatoon 4? Do you have a favorite idol or idol group from the Splatoon universe? There are, a lot of quality of life things that I want from the game. I want it to have better online. I want it to, be more functional on launch in terms of the disconnects and everything people were experimenting. That definitely drove a lot of people away from the game at first. And, launching buggy like that is just never good for a game. It always gets that reputation, even if it sheds that reputation later. What was the game? I think No Man's Sky was this big open world game that it got panned so badly because of the state it was in at launch. And it became a really good game afterwards, but nobody found out because everyone only remembered the bad reputation it had at first. So it's that sort of thing. First impressions are really important. And Splatoon 4 needs to knock everyone's socks off, I think, in terms of its online capability when it comes out. So it'll be taken a little more seriously. I want the movement mechanics to still be fast. Do I want to see any of the mechanics taken out? Squid Roll needs to stay. Squid Roll's sick and deserves to stay there for sure. Squid Surge, I could take or leave. Do I have a favorite idol or idol group from the Splatoon universe? I'm assuming we're just talking Splatoon 1, 2, 3, so like Pearl, Marina, Callie Marie, and the Deep Cut folks. I'm partial to Callie. I like her, it's like a puppy dog energy that she's got, but also like a self-aware puppy dog energy, where it's not that she's like vapid or anything. She's just choosing to be happy about things. I appreciate that about her. More general question. How often do you consider strategies and tactics from outside the Splatoon community? When I find something that works, it feels like being a monkey on a keyboard accidentally writing Sun Tzu. Then I remember it was a Zulu text. How much value does outsider knowledge have compared to comp experience? Any experience is good experience. This is something that I learned in the working world too. So there you go. I'm bringing something from outside of Splatoon into Splatoon. When you're a kid and like they're doing those things in class for trying to help you figure out what job you're gonna do when you grow up, I remember for me, and maybe they do this better now, but for me, it always felt like your options are doctor, teacher, firefighter, psychologist. And like there were these discrete jobs. And if you didn't fit into one of these like 100 jobs, then, well, do your best to fit yourself into them or something. That's kind of how it felt. And I'm sure that, my teachers would disagree with that, but that was the impression that I was given when I was young. And what I've learned is that all that really matters is that you're developing skills. As long as you're developing skills, those skills can be applied anywhere you want to go with them. Like teaching skills translate really well anywhere because you're always having to teach someone something. And it forces you to be more articulate and to plan what you're about to say next. So developing any kinds of skills will help you anywhere. Obviously, some to lesser degrees than others, but you're going to gravitate towards the places where those skills are going to help you the most because that's what you're going to be good at because that's what you've practiced. So I talk about fighting game stuff all the time in Splatoon, and you've seen me do that all the time. How often do I consider those strategies? Just whenever it seems applicable, whenever they come up. But like my understanding of zoning and spacing totally came from Super Smash Bros. Melee. No place else other than that. The way that I draw arcs around players and show what zones they control, that's partly stolen from FLC because FLC awakened a lot of that in my brain from back when I played Melee. But like in Melee, you can literally just draw a line on the screen and be like, this player can go up to this line before they're just going to get hit. And so it's that kind of thinking that has really informed that. Dear Jem, how are you? Sincerely, Ashik. Hi, Ashik. I'm doing great. Thoughts on the Splatoon community? Splatoon community is one of the best competitive gaming communities I've ever been a part of. I cannot think of another one that is more diverse and inclusive than this one, that has the least problems with like massively problematic behavior. That's not to say that there aren't, people who are in this community for the wrong reasons doing bad things. Like it is still important to keep yourself safe. And that is still an ongoing problem that competitive gaming communities need to address. I will also say that the Splatoon community is significantly less experienced, that a lot of the good stuff that we have, a lot of the community knowledge is basically straight up coming out of the Smash competitive community. Like it's no coincidence whatsoever that all of our majors are also Smash majors. It's because we learned everything from them and we piggyback off of them. And I think a lot of the ethos that drove Smash to become what it is today is unknown to Splatoon players because they don't know those roots. They don't know how far back that goes. So we're very good, but we're also very inexperienced, and we're still quite small. And there's a lot of growth that needs to happen, and there's a lot of pain and mistakes and discomfort that will come with that growth that we have yet to undergo. I think that our biggest obstacle right now is Nintendo. If Nintendo were to support the competitive community, Splatoon would become an esport overnight. And they have a lot of resources with which to do that. Maybe not, the most resources out of any organization that has a big video game, but like they could be doing a lot more than they are. And there are a lot of efforts that are kind of actively sabotaged by the way that Nintendo operates. So, I don't know. There's a lot that I can say about that, but I'll leave it there for now. How do you find a team when you have social anxiety? I've tried the little about my comp playstyle, but I can never really get past that. I also have plenty of socials. This is something that I've run into with a number of people before, and my experience is that it's going to be hard. Like, but you probably knew that, you know? It's not going to be as easy as it is going to be without social anxiety. And you kind of have to come to terms with that. But what you're looking for is a team that has very mature relationships to each other. They are very willing to be vulnerable with each other, that they're very willing to be patient with each other, that they're not going to take out their negative emotions on each other, that they're going to be supportive actively, that they're going to make an effort to encourage each other, that any feedback that they're giving, you know that it is coming from a place of them caring for you and wanting you to be better. You need a team that is very supportive. And if you can find that, that will increase your confidence to a point that you can jump into other groups, even groups that aren't that supportive, and have that confidence that you've built up from earlier. And that's going to give you your sea legs when you're playing with different groups of people. But I don't have social anxiety, and so there's only so much guidance that I can give on that. I'm only so knowledgeable about how any of that works. So I would definitely seek out other people who feel that way. I really would like to know which is the best weapon. I'm not talking about opinions. I mean the real thing. Damage range. How much does it paint? How fast does it paint? Of course, I don't think there's an answer for it. I always wondered about it. Well, the best weapon is always a question that competitive players are asking, and there's always debate about it, and there's always, an accepted general answer until something shifts the status quo, usually a patch, but often just seeing something Japan did and being like, oh, wait, that works too. Right now, it's the Splash-O-Matic. Most competitive teams are running 2 Splash-O-Matics on a team comp. It's just an overwhelmingly good weapon. The Crab Tank is the best special in the game, and it is the weapon that gets it the fastest. It is also a very strong frontline weapon by itself and can do chip damage to support its teammates with the Burst Bomb. It's a very complete kit. It's overwhelmingly powerful right now. What's the difference between the competitive meta and the solo queue meta? Is it worth trying to pick up a weapon to suit the solo queue meta? Solo queue, you're getting random weapons. You're getting just a completely random set of weapons. Yeah, more players are going to lean towards the weapons that are meta for competitive play, but you're not going to have any idea what comp you're building. And what solo queue is going to force you to do is adapt to whatever situation you're given. That's why whenever I do a VOD review, I'm always looking at, here's their team comp, here's your team comp, here's its strengths and weaknesses, here's your strengths and weaknesses. And you're going to have to play in a way that uses your strengths against their weaknesses and offsets your weaknesses against their strengths. So that might mean that you, as a junior, have to play aggressively, even though what you would typically see that thing do is farm for its special. Maybe you're used to playing aggressively yourself, but you have to play more passively and paint because you have a whole bunch of aggressive weapons and nobody's watching flanks and nobody's painting for the team. Solo queue is a game of adapting to whatever fire you have to put out next, whereas a coordinated team setting is a matter of being able to plan out exactly what's going to happen, and the only fires you have to put out are predictable because you know exactly what could go wrong. You know, my teammate could go down in this location right here. If so, here is the contingency plan, and if that contingency plan fails, we back up and we paint for specials. And you can also communicate with your teammates a lot more. So in terms of meta, in terms of strategy and weapons, you can't really plan as much for solo queue. If you could, it would be exactly the same as it is in coordinated play for the most part. There might be a few differences here and there, like some weapons, like point sensor, for example, will give you the ability to gather information that you would only get from getting callouts from your teammates. But it's not going to be that different. The game is still the same, and it's just a question of who's playing it and with what tools. If you could change any weapon, what would it be? What changes would you make? I would probably just pick whatever weapon I thought was the worst right now, either like the Big Swig or the Undercover or the Arrow Spray or something, and try to buff it massively. Like, none of these little, like, ooh, we've given you fewer points for special. Like, no, make the weapon, the main weapon, massively better. Significantly improve the range, the accuracy, the, like, fire rate, the amount of damage it gets. Give it, like, a really, really good kit. Just, like, make it something that all of a sudden shifts the meta, because now this is a tool that's at your disposal and you have to consider whether you might want to use it or not. Because I think having weapons that are super weak is lame, and that everyone who wants to play whatever weapon they want to in this game should have a play style that they can use to win with that weapon. How do I effectively use Trizooka as a carbon main, as in when where should I use it? Struggling to find effective times and places to use it, since I usually wind up impulsively aiming all my shots at one person until I either run out of shots or I get to pick on them. So Trizooka is tricky for carbon, I think, because basically the carbon in its default state wants to be sharking people, but you can't get super close to someone with a Trizooka and have it be especially effective. Where you pop the Trizooka from is probably the single most important determining factor in whether it's successful or not, just like with Inkjet. You need to set yourself up so you have good sight lines, and set yourself up so that you already have a target before you press the right stick in and actually fire it. Using it impulsively does not work. You cannot just, like, panic Zuka. If you're panic Zuka-ing, it's probably because someone got right on top of you, and you might as well just swing your roller at them instead. But, like, Azuka there is this Hydra that's in the way of my team. I can't reach them super well. They know I'm coming at them. They're playing really well around me. Let's just, like, take a shot at them from further out than they expect me to be taking a shot at them. Or, like, you see a whole bunch of people grouped up that are far away from you and they don't know you're there yet. Just pop the Zuka and get a triple because they all stood in one place. That's what the Zuka is for. They're two very different times that you want to use them. And so you need to put yourself in a position that's different from where you would normally play if you're planning on playing around the Zuka. You kind of have to make this choice. Am I going to play for the Zuka, or am I going to play for the main weapon right now? Because your positioning is different between the two. Nova playstyle, loadout tips, suggestions. You're kind of there to give your team information. You're there to deny the enemy team the ability to sneak up on you. So you're putting out a whole bunch of point sensors, you're painting flank routes, you're cutting off any enemy escape routes when you paint. You're being very meticulous about making sure that every angle that someone could threaten you from is accounted for. You're very, very supportive in that sense, because your weapons fighting is just not going to beat many other weapons fighting. You can outrange some frontline weapons and, like, attack them from the range that you have over them. But as soon as they close distance with you, you've got to be very careful and try and get out of there, because you don't have a lot of tools to work with. And then you're trying to use the whale to support whatever fight is going on. Because, again, your main weapon is not going to be the greatest tool for that, so having any extra damage on that fight is always going to be helpful. And use that pretty frequently, just because you're going to be able to paint a lot for it. How do I get better at aiming with chargers? They're all I play, but I still tend to miss a decent amount of shots. Everyone misses shots with chargers. There's nobody who just hits their shots. But it's a slow process of practicing and doing good drills. I would recommend looking up Brian's YouTube video on the aim drills that he does with his charger. I know I could probably find this out with, like, a Google search, but what exactly the difference is between... Okay, go Google search it! I'm not Google, just go look it up. Oh my god. I'm sending you a let me Google that for you link in the Twitter response. What is good positioning as a backliner? Or what to do when you lose a team fight? Good positioning as a backliner is a place where you're safe and you can still have an impact. So you're forcing someone out of position, you're making it so that they can't attack your team, you're stopping a flank, you're just getting picks. Those are the kinds of ways that you have impact with those weapons, and you're in a place where if somebody's coming to attack you, you're going to see it coming, and you're going to be able to take defensive measures to get yourself out of there and very quickly return to a position where you can have impact again. So you're not cornered, you're not forced to jump out. You're just like, okay, if someone starts to come from this direction, I'm just going to rotate over here, and then I'm going to keep going and doing what I was doing before. And that's your ideal kind of backline positioning. Devi has a system of maps that show good positions for backline weapons to get you started on all of the maps. That's linked in the Squid School Discord server in the hashtag resources channel. Highly recommend checking that out if that's something that you're looking for.